Hey paisanos, it's me, Hamish, and welcome to another Super Mario moment. And today I'm very excited because we're talking about a game that actually might be one of my absolute favorites. I believe it's a title truly for the gays and girlies. We are talking about Super Mario Brothers 2, also known as Super Mario Brothers USA, and to a lot of people, to a certain generation, Super Mario Advance. We will explain all soon. And joining me is pretty much the expert on this game. Maybe he'll disagree, but they are a co-host of the Gayest Episode Ever podcast and a blogger behind the Thrilling Tales of Old Video Games blog. I am joined by the incredibly talented and funny and sweet Drew Mackie.
Hello, and friend.
Hello. We're also joined by Birdo herself. Where do you land on the Birdo, Birdette, Catherine, etc. debate? Ostro, perhaps.
Right, there's so many options. If she wanted everyone to call her Birdetta, she would have told us by now. I think she's cool with Birdo. She's owning it. That's her identity. It doesn't matter if it ends in an O. She's made it the name of a very strong female character, and we just have to go with it.
I totally agree. I'm so excited to talk about basically the other Mario title with queer representation that we could talk about on this show, having covered Thousand Year Door already. But first, let's talk about you. For those of my listeners and viewers who aren't familiar, tell me about yourself.
Well, I am a recovering newspaper journalist who now engages with pop culture for a living, which has been a very strange transition. And although I have a podcast about gay episodes of sitcoms called Gayest Episode Ever, people who listen to this podcast might be more familiar with me writing about video games, which I have done basically since I had internet access on one site or another. But it is currently happening at thrillingtalesofoldvideogames.com, where I'm doing a very liberal arts approach to game history, where I'm trying to talk about video games in the context of pop culture. And there's a lot of gender stuff and a lot of language stuff. And if that didn't drive you away screaming, you might want to check it out, because deep dives in Super Mario Brothers 2 is one of my specialties, because it is the most important game to me.
Yeah, I'd love to know more. We'll talk about the game itself in a minute, but when it comes to your personal history with video games and how you feel about them now, was Super Mario Brothers 2 the one? Was it the first?
So we got the NES with Duck Hunt, Super Mario Brothers packed in, and Mario 1 was too hard for me because I was 5 when we got it, and some of those jumps are harder to do if you don't have grown-up hand-eye coordination. So I was not able to beat Mario 1 until way after we got it initially. So somehow we ended up getting subscribed to Nintendo Power, and right from the beginning, Nintendo Power was hitting Super Mario Brothers 2 very hard as the next big thing that kids should be interested in. And I got it for my birthday and was extremely into it for all the reasons we will discuss. But it was something that was maybe a little bit easier for me to play. So I was able to beat that long before I was able to beat Bowser in Mario 1. And so that became the first game I ever felt I had I have mastered this game. And that was a very fun thing for, at that point, I think 7-year-old me. Have liked video games ever since. Might not have had a lifelong relationship with video games if this one hadn't clicked so well with me.
That's such an interesting, because I had the same. I had the NES, I had the Duck Hunt, Super Mario Brothers. I think by the time I was a conscious being, we had the whole NES trilogy, but I always remember the third game being my older brother's favorite game, and 2 being the one we didn't play as much together, but it was the one that I always gravitated to myself. And I do wonder if it being a little bit easier, just to control the fact that you get a little bit of extra health, you get a little bit of extra time to, calculate certain things, helped in that respect.
especially if you're a little gay boy and you're going to choose the princess because she's the princess, and then you realize she is sort of easy mode, which is sort of insulting to little gay boys and girls who are playing this game. But because she has the ability to float, she has the most control, so it's the least likely you're going to fall into a hole and die, and that goes a great deal to make this game a lot more fun. Does that make sense?
I agree. Yeah. So after Mario Brothers 2, what was your journey with games after that? What consoles did you have, etc.?
Nintendo Power very much dominated my purchasing. We were always a Nintendo family. I only got a PlayStation to play Final Fantasy VII. And even then, it felt like I was cheating on this company with which I still have a very like close, intimate relationship. But I've had every Nintendo system, and I've played almost every Mario game, except for some of the weirder sports titles, maybe some of the Mario parties I didn't pick up. But if it's something that's like less of a spinoff, I have purchased and played it and beaten it. And I think they got me. They got their hooks in me. The Nintendo agenda got me young.
You seem like the perfect guest for this show, because I have definitely bought. Look, the quality of most Mario games is good, but I've definitely bought some stinkers. I knew would be stinkers because it had some connection to the series I love so much.
Wait, say what one of the stinkers is as the host. Say one that you thought was a stinker.
Well, I don't even remember the name of it, but I bought that bizarre asset swap like puzzle game on the DS where you had like gems. It was like Dragon Mario Fortune Street
or Itataki Street.
The reason why that was a stinker to me was it was truly using like PNGs of like old sort of renders to represent characters and stuff. What else? I mean, I bought almost all the Mario parties, even when like the reviews would dip. And what's interesting is that I didn't get Nintendo Power. In the UK, we just had Nintendo Official Magazine. That's great title.
Not a good title at
all. No. But, you know, they were the official magazine, but they gave semi-fair reviews. But if any Mario title got to the like 7 out of 10 range, in my head it has been forever tainted as like that's a bad one. Like I've never played Wario World. I've never played quite a few games that just like slightly dipped into that kind of range. Shake It, Wario Land Shake It, which we did on this podcast, I have had avoided because I thought it was like a terrible experience. Turns out it's kind of fun. But I was really dictated about games depending on what this one UK based magazine told me to get.
That seems pretty fair for Nintendo Power too. If something didn't get a 9 and it starred Mario, then you knew it was them. That's as low as they were allowed to give it. So I've never played Wario World, and I probably never will, and I'm fine with that. Or Master of Disguise. I've not played that one either.
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, it's dependent on whether one of my guests chooses it. And to be honest, my guests typically choose the weird titles that, like, I've basically booked up the next, like, season, and I still haven't got a single person asking to do Super Mario Brothers 1. Like, no one cares, but I've got people choosing, like, Wario Land Shake It or Kart Fighter last week or all kinds of wild stuff. So,
and that was a really good episode, Kart Fighter, but picking Super Mario 1 is like playing Mario Kart and playing as Mario, where it's like you can do that, but like it tells us nothing about you as a person, and there's probably something that's a lot more you. It might be a while before you find that Mario 1 person.
Yeah, I wonder if it's also because there seems like there's pressure to talk about this title. I haven't got someone for the original Donkey Kong either, but people feel they need to be some kind of expert. But they're fun games. I just think, yeah, like you said, every other game after that has its own unique flavor. And this game has flavor. It has a really unique vibe. And I was playing it earlier, and I would love to, by the end of this episode, kind of pinpoint what this vibe is, because it can seem very flippant and gay podcast to say it just feels kind of queer, but it does feel gentler and more artistic and more just quirky than the other, even Mario Brothers 3, I think.
Oh, for sure. Well, so The interesting thing, I mean, are we at the point where we're starting to talk about the qualities of the game?
Maybe we are. We can come
Okay.
back to talking about your future with gaming or whatever later, but I think we're ready to talk about Mario Brothers 2.
So if you're looking at the evolution of Mario games, there was not really a set way for how to make one until Super Mario 3 came out in the US, or the Japanese Super Mario Brothers 2 in Japan. And that's because in Donkey Kong, you're like jumping over barrels and you're grabbing hammers. And then in Mario Brothers, it's bumping enemies from below and then kicking them over, but you can't jump on the turtle, which is very counterintuitive if you've played any other Mario game where there's turtles. And then Mario 3 is the one that establishes basically what Mario games would be from then on. And then in Japan, they got the hard version of that, which we call the Lost Levels, which is the exact same game mechanics with very little variation, just harder. And then the US got Super Mario Brothers 2, which has very few play mechanics in common with Mario 1. And at the time, from a Western perspective, it just looks like, oh, they're changing up Mario every time. But then after 3 came out and returned it back to that classic Super Mario 1 style, number 2 became the outlier. And the way to look at it now is like, oh, it's doing everything wrong. Like, you can jump on enemies, but you don't kill them, you ride around on them. And the idea of you're doing everything wrong, that's not how you're meant to do things, is something any queer person would relate to, where you're being told it's like, oh, that's actually not how you're supposed to do it. And you're like, but that's how I'm going to do it. And it doesn't matter if it's wrong, I'm going to do it anyway. And that's just how you're going to have to deal with it. And that, I think, is probably one of the reasons why this is like instantly a queer game.
I love that. I mean, I don't know why I gravitated to it, but I have to imagine that unique playstyle coupled with you can play as the princess, coupled with some of the just bizarre enemy designs or world design, it just really drew me in. And that's not to say I didn't like the others. And what you're saying also, it's interesting because it's similar to Zelda, like Zelda 2, and then Link to the Past kind of told everyone what the franchise was going to be until Ocarina of Time and Mario 64, and they changed it up again.
Right.
And maybe, you know, in a little weird way, Mario World brought back a few little Mario Brothers 2 things. We got a little ninja cameo, and the Goombas you like didn't quite jump on to kill, and things like that. Right. It's almost like things kind of seeded in a little bit later as well.
And as time goes on, more and more of Mario 2 has become part of the game's overall canon, the series' overall canon, in a way that didn't really seem possible when Mario 3 came out, because Mario 3 did seem to undo most of that, unfortunately. But I remember getting the previews of Mario 3 in Nintendo Power, and it was like, oh, you can fly as with a raccoon tail. Isn't that interesting? But like, what I'm seeing in the screenshots, it's just Mario and Luigi. I'm not seeing Peach and Toad. They probably just haven't shown us that yet. And it wasn't until I actually got the game, I'm like, oh, they're not in this game. You can't play as them. And I was so confused. I was like, why would they get rid of that? That was one of the best parts of Mario 2. I came to understand why much later on, but I just assumed that would be part of the games from then on. I was very disappointed that like you couldn't play as Peach or Toad.
So I think it's probably time now to talk about the origins of this game. Often on this show, I kind of brush over the production of these games because quite often it's just Nintendo decided to make another one. But this one has probably the most unique and interesting backstory of any of the games that we'll ever cover. And that's partly the reason why I brought on someone who is a true video game historian. Let's talk a little bit about Yume Kojo, Doki Doki Panic.
みんなおいでよ、夢工場へ。夢工場87は今年夏、東京と大阪で同時開催。マイル券はただいま発売中。みんな来てね。
はいどうぞ。おお、大根が出てきてどうしたんだ。
抜いて担いで投げて。夢工場ドキドキパニック7月10日発売。
So what the heck did we just watch? I can get us a little bit started, but I'd love you to jump in whenever you want.
Sure.
Even as a kid, I knew something was up. And I can't exactly remember when I discovered that Super Mario Brothers 2 was, in essence, it's kind of interesting we did Kart Fighter last week, actually, because in essence, it is a reskin. I was about to say ROM hack, which doesn't feel very fair, but it's a reskin of a different game. And for a long time, all I really knew about that game was that it was Mario Brothers 2, but Arabian Nights. But the story is a lot more interesting than that, I think. It all kind of begins with a trade show, a tech show, a festival.
I would place it somewhere between trade show and like World's Fair style event, because the general public was interested in going to Dream Factory 87 in a way that, like, I'm not sure the general public would be going to other stuff. It was very Disneyland-esque.
Yeah, it sounds a little like in the UK we had the Great Exhibition, and I know those kinds of things existed around the world. This was a kind of 80s one, right at the height of like Japan's tech boom. And Nintendo being still is, but at the time, like, this brand, again, not brand new, sorry, I keep getting worried that some YouTube commenter is going to correct me, but Nintendo was leading the charge in video games in Japan. Of course they would be a big presence at a show like this, and they developed a game in a kind of partnership with the show's mascots. Or were they the mascots of Fuji Television? I'm not quite sure.
I believe they're just for the show. I believe they're owned by Fuji TV, but Imogen and Lena especially were like the Olympic mascots are for any given Olympics. They were the way of branding this event. The happiest family in all of video games. Though I apparently was mistaken for a long time. I thought Lena was his sister. Lena's apparently his girlfriend, but Mama and Papa are just Mama and Papa.
It's a very Ice Climbers situation where I'm never quite sure. So yeah, it's a crazy idea to make not only just a tie-in game to a one-off event, a tech show, but to make an incredible game that's like really is not Nintendo resting on its laurels. It's pushing everything they've done so far forward. I find it really fascinating.
If I am remembering correctly, and when this goes live, I'm going to make like a shell post on Thrilling Tales of Old Video Game to promote it, and I'll double check some of this stuff. But if I remember correctly, the idea for what this game was began as a Mario demo. And it was a Mario demo where it was like vertical movement, like which is showcased in this game. And then the deal was made with Fuji to make a game specifically for this event. And Shigeru Miyamoto had more to do with the development of this game than he did with the Japanese Super Mario Brothers 2.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Super Mario Brothers 2, aka The Lost Levels,
right,
is, I hate to say this, but it feels like DLC. It like starts as hard as the previous game sort of ends, and keeps going on from that. Whereas this does feel like something new, and as you said at the start, continues the trend at the time of Mario always doing a different thing in each game. I do find something actually quite appealing about the original aesthetic and these new characters. I quite like the family dynamic.
Yeah,
I think the storybook idea, the like 1001 Nights influence, I think it's very charming.
Yeah, it's too bad that we never got to see this family again, because I believe, I don't know this for sure, but I believe that Nintendo doesn't own the rights to the central 6 family members and their monkey, but they owned everything else.
It's actually, I mean, it's incredible that they owned everything else when you think about all the stuff this game actually contributes to the series.
I think that's because the family pre-existed as part of the Fuji event, and like Birdo and the Shy Guys and Wart were never part of the advertising for the event. They were specific to the game invented by Nintendo. But yeah, oftentimes ownership rights were never that easy.
So the rest of the story is just that presumably Nintendo of America saw the Lost Levels, saw the Japanese version of Super Mario Brothers 2. At this stage in gaming, we were already many years behind in terms of release, and said, this is too hard. No one will want this. And I have no idea whose idea it was to let me know.
Okay, so oftentimes people will take credit for things and other people will be like, no, it was actually my idea. At least as the story's been explained to me from Howard Phillips, is that Howard Phillips was one of the first Nintendo of America employees. He's the one who played Super Mario Brothers The Lost Levels and was like, this is going to kill the fan base because people are going to spend money on this and then be like, what the hell is this? Why would you trick my child into playing this terrible game? And it was his idea to put Mario characters into Doki Doki Panic and turn it into a Mario game. And if that is the case, there are situations where I believe that is actually really what happened. So yeah.
That's so fascinating because that single decision led to Shy Guys, Bombs, Birdo.
The reason Peach still floats in many platforming games is because she stole Lena's moves from Super Mario Brothers, from Doki Doki Panic, and whenever she gets to do that in any game, it's a vestige of Lena, who no longer gets to exist, but in a small way does in Peach.
Yeah, and you wonder if Peach would have ever been playable if this decision hadn't been made. I mean, even Super Mario Kart, would that be different if we didn't already have a precedent of allowing you to play as all kinds of other characters? And I find also it's interesting the influence for the cartoon series where the lead four are Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad. I always feel like whenever I see those four together, it brings a little spark of joy to my heart because it's just that original lineup.
For sure. And Toad would not really have an identity as Toad as an individual character in the West were it not for Mario Brothers 2, because before that it was just the idea that oh, these are Peach's mushroom retainers. They all look alike and they're not specific characters,
I'm really happy when you said mushroom retainer because that's what I always knew them as growing up.
Yeah. And turns out that means nothing. That was something that was invented by someone who was doing the localization, and it doesn't really mean anything. And it mattered to us because we're reading those instruction manuals like they're the Bible. But what's a mushroom retainer? We don't really know.
Yeah, there is a different world to the kid from that first gen where, what was in an instruction booklet, and we'll get onto that because there's been this is a notorious instruction booklet specifically, but like you said, they are the Bible, and this is where we got all our story because it wasn't really in the game.
And it's where the cartoons got their story too, because they didn't really have anything else to go on besides that.
Yeah, and we considered the cartoons also as gospel because I guess at the time we didn't have a knowledge of how licensing worked and all that stuff.
Right.
I'm interested to know if you have played Doki Doki Panic or if it's a game that you play regularly.
No, I replayed Mario Advance for this recording. I played Doki Doki Panic before, and it's cute, and I like the characters. I like the animation of the main four characters, but it is a slightly inferior version of the same basic engine as Super Mario Bros. 2. They polished it quite a bit for the American release, and I like that it exists, but I don't need to engage with it. But aside from all the times I engage with it for research purposes, but just not as a played thing.
So I'm interested to know. I feel we've talked enough about Doki Doki Panic itself. In terms of Super Mario Brothers 2, as a kid, presumably not knowing any of this other history and shenanigans going on, do you feel like, as an actual sequel to Super Mario Brothers 1, was it satisfying? Did it make any kind of sense as a sequel?
As a kid, for sure it did. I didn't know that Mario was from Donkey Kong when I first played the first Super Mario Brothers game. So it was just really just a one-to-one thing where it's oh, Mario is in this mushroom place and now he's in this vaguely Arabian fantasy place. And it makes sense to me because there's enough carryover with like stars that grant you invincibility that it felt like it was more of the same thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it swaps a few things, like, cherries, I guess, are the more collectible item, but there's still coins, there's still Koopa shells, there's still like a few little things, mushrooms, there's a few things you see here and there that give it a little bit of connection. But as you said, I always felt at the time the instruction manuals sort of tried to build a narrative between the games. I might be wrong, but I swear there's somewhere in an instruction manual which mentions that, like, when Mario was rescuing Peach from Dinosaur Land, something happened, or maybe I'm mistaken, or maybe this was all in my head as a kid.
There's some stuff like the sunken ship in Super Mario World is pointed out in the instruction manual for Super Mario World as being one of the airships from Mario 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Weird, right?
Yeah, I mean, just before there was too many games to count, I all viewed them as happening like one after each other. And, Mario was so exhausted from his first time rescuing the princess that he fell asleep and had a crazy dream.
Right.
Yeah.
In this one, they literally just like, Mario had a dream that he went to the dream world, and they're like, you're in dream world, and then it turned out that was a dream, and then he went on a picnic with Mario and Luigi and Toad and Peach, and then they went into the dream world, and then at the end you find out it was a dream, and you're like supposed to be surprised by this, but it's like they really foreshadowed this very thoroughly.
Yes, the world is called Subcon, which maybe as a kid I didn't quite connect, but now it's pretty obvious.
I think there was probably a moment when I was like sitting in class not paying attention. I was like, oh god damn it, how did I not realize this like this whole time?
Well, I still don't quite understand what Sarasaland is. I know it's some kind of rug, but or something, but I still don't quite understand it.
Wait, do you want me to explain it to you?
Oh, please.
Okay, so calico is a form of fabric that exists in the West, and there is a Japanese counterpart, and the Japanese word for it is sarasa, and it is slightly different from what the Western version of calico is, but it's close enough in that it's supposed to be different mismatched patterns laid together. And the reason that is the name of Daisy's Kingdom in Super Mario Land is that it is 4 kingdoms that don't go together. You have the Egypt Kingdom, the Bermuda Kingdom, the Easter Island Kingdom, and the China Kingdom. And the name is supposed to be representative of, like, you're getting contrasting things that are part of one, but they don't necessarily go together. That's why it's Sarasaland. Although we get it misrepresented as being specifically an Arabian kingdom, like we do in Mario Kart Tour or World.
Which is a kind of retcon that I understand why it bothers some people, but if it means that Daisy can just sort of have a place and be in more things, I guess I'm not too annoyed. But
as a Mario 2 advocate, I'm kind of annoyed that they're sort of erasing Mario 2 a little bit, but whatever. The canon is very flexible.
Well, it definitely is now. I mean, like we said, at this time when there was only a handful of games, I was always trying to work out the like Mario Kingdom map and where all these kings came from and all that stuff. I will probably know the answer to this, but as we've already said, this game allows you to play as one of 4 characters. Who do you like playing as the most and why?
Obviously, I picked the princess first because I was that little sort of little boy who always liked to play as female characters whenever he could. But over time, I also liked playing as Toad because Toad is more challenging to play as because his jumps suck and they're a lot harder to time. But also, if I'm looking at Mario and Luigi and being like, okay, that's the base model for like what a man is supposed to look like, I'm like, well, I'm not quite that. So there's Peach, which is one thing, and then Toad. Whatever we think Toad is, Toad also felt like an alternative to like the standard male, so I'd play as both of them.
Toad feels a little like hard mode, but Luigi feels like annoying hard mode. Like they just live like Luigi is truly the kind of challenge mode, I suppose, whereas Toad is kind of like the speed run mode.
He is
and I think is really fun to play as once you start to know these levels really well. And especially the first couple of worlds, which in my experience, I like replay all the time.
Right.
Toad is the one where you can just like run through all of them and then have a bit of fun. And then because I basically play as all those characters so much, Mario ends up feeling like the fun little treat I give myself sometimes for like boss battles, just to feel more cinematic. And I guess every game since this childhood experience, I've always expected or wanted multiple characters. And we have started to get that, but they, like, for example, Mario Wonder, they basically make them all kind of the same, except for a couple of like broken easy mode characters.
Right.
Do you think that's like a good idea, or do you miss this kind of way of doing it?
I liked how Super Mario 3D World did it. I really love Super Mario 3D World. I think that is an excellent Mario sequel, and I view it in many ways as being the spiritual sequel to Mario Brothers 2, because Peach can float and Toad functions much the way he does, and Luigi is annoying to play as in that game as well. And I'm fine with them doing Wonder as a means to get a lot of other characters in there. Because, like, what are they going to give Daisy? Like, are they going to make up a special power for Daisy? She may not have one. It's fine. But I also want them to make another game like Super Mario 3D World that has some of this Mario 2 flavor in it. The flavor being turnip flavor specifically.
Well, let's talk about some more of that flavoring, because this game gave us, as I said, Shy Guys, Bombs is the kind of most surprising one, I feel. Ninja, which I think took a big break, but they had a huge moment in the new Mario Galaxy trailer. So
stoked for them. So stoked for their comeback. I don't know what they were doing for decades on end, but I'm glad that people realize that they're adorable. How has Nintendo not made Ninja plushies? They're so cute.
They're so cute. All they do is jump up and down, and I love when they crop up. Like, I think there was a playable one in the new Mario Golf and things like that. But there's also plenty of other characters, bosses, enemies, and things in this game that we haven't seen or don't see nearly as much. Are there any that really stand out to you?
Obviously, Wart, because he was the first big bad who wasn't Bowser. And as we got more Bowser big bad games, he started to more and more be this like very strange anomaly where, this like regal looking. Are we allowed to swear in this podcast?
Yeah.
Sorry. I was going to call him a regal-looking fucker who seems like he's got something slightly different than Bowser does. It seems like they should have some sort of contentious relationship. I want to see that fleshed out, and it is just wild that Nintendo wants to make him a Zelda character and not put him back in a Mario game for decades on end. Wild.
Yeah.
Wild.
I mean, it's interesting that he shows up in A Link to the Past, which is just like Link's Awakening, which is the Zelda game set in a dream, spoilers. And it's kind of odd that Mamu, I think he's called in Japan, is just like the dream character, which other characters from this game get to exist in the real world. Like, presumably, if this really is set in a dream, what is the one character that Mario completely came up with wholesale, while Birdo is just someone that he knew, I guess.
Birdo was his neighbor, and he happened to dream about his neighbor, and now she's part of the tennis crew. That's how it works.
Yeah. I, as a kid, I don't know if you had these comics. They're not the Nintendo Power comics, but
I know what you're going to show. It's the Valiant comics. Yep, that's the one.
Yeah. So I quite like this interpretation of Wart, where Bowser and Wart or King Koopa or whatever, they can coexist. In this comic, he's, I think, an art collector or art dealer. He at least seems like the kind of richer, slightly more successful version of Bowser.
He's a little bit more refined.
Yeah.
It's so wild that he exists in this comic, because this rendition of King Koopa looks so much like Wart, where it's like the visual differentiation between these two characters is almost nothing except for the robe. Thank God one of them's wearing a robe, but it's a weird thing to look at visually, you know.
Yeah, and I saw that you have posted about this because you like kind of collecting images of Wart, because he's the true rare Frog Pepe thing or whatever from a few years ago. And I saw that he'd shown up in a book that I also bought on eBay because I needed to have it. This
Mhm.
kind of recruitment booklet manual. It kind of feels like a cardboard kid's picture book, but
Yeah.
it's got some of the most adorable art in it. And in one moment, I can't find it right now, but Daisy is giving Wart a call.
Yeah, wasn't that strange? Like, apparently some artist who was doing work for Nintendo got the okay for like, can Daisy call Wart on the phone? They're like, yeah, sure. That's fine.
It is funny because you think of Nintendo having such control over certain aspects for such a long time. I don't exactly know what's happened, but it does feel like in the 2020s, some shift has happened where Mario Kart World is a good example where, you know,
Yeah.
reference Mario Land, reference this, it doesn't matter anymore. Everything's cool. Yeah.
I think the change was them being like, hey, Shigeru, why don't you make some movies? Yeah, go make movies. Go make the movies. And now the kids get to make their own rules. And some of his bands fell by the wayside.
Well, I always think about how I remember when they did this, was it true? They did a kind of poll and found out that like Americans don't like Tingle. And so they sort of stopped putting Tingle in games. Is that a real thing that happened? Do you know anything about this?
Oh, I'm not as much of a Zelda expert as I am a Mario expert, but that does sound familiar. I can't confirm though.
Because I remember something like that, and it felt like certain decisions were made across the company and across all their characters based on like early internet. It's like the Wind Waker to Twilight Princess thing. It's the like there was a big backlash to something fun and whimsical, and it took them a long time to realize that that was just a very loud and maybe reactionary kind of thing. And actually,
Right.
a lot of people like these characters. And I feel, in a weird sort of way, I feel like we've never been closer towards coming back somehow. Especially because you get these little, like the director of or someone involved in the new Mario movie keeps mentioning that they're going to be real deep cut characters. And I don't know what they mean by that, because that could mean Wario from like a, you know, a studio executive point of view,
Right.
or like Tatanga. What's going on? I don't really know.
Well, like seeing as that it had Spike in the previous movie, I'm like, well, that really could mean just about anything, because I never thought we would see Foreman Spike in the Mario movie, much less a sexy Foreman Spike. Now we have.
Yeah. Well, especially because Wart, to American audiences, and these are American movies, like you say, is the second Mario villain, or the third if you count Donkey Kong. And he, I think, still looms large on a lot of American Mario fans' minds in maybe a way that possibly doesn't to a Japanese audience, or at least to a Nintendo executive audience.
One of the things I wanted to look into for when I write up this for my site as a little promo thing is trying to figure out exactly what the reaction was to Super Mario USA in Japan, and figure out what people thought of it, and if they thought it was strange to be receiving these characters. But no matter what it was, there's no way it could be anything on par with the reaction to Mario 2 in the United States, where Wart was on merchandise. Like at the height of Mario Mania, it was showing off Mario holding a radish and Wart and like Shy Guys and stuff. The Koopa Troopa and Bowser were the old stuff, and they kind of seemed less important, not so much on the cartoon, but in just if you went to buy like Mario flavored party accessories for a child's birthday party, there was a period where it would have been Mario 2 themed, and you would see pictures of Birdo and not like a Hammer Brother, you know?
Yeah, and even in the cartoon, they kept using King Koopa, but I remember Mario 2 enemies and things. I remember the Pidgeots, are they called? Being in an episode, and the comics too. I mean, I had a kind of such fascination with Mario 2 that when reading the comics, I would like be really aware of like panels that had Shy Guys in and little references here and there. Now, seeing as you're fondling her and we are talking about characters from this game, there is a perhaps unlikely character has made it out of Super Mario Brothers 2 and has become really a mainstay, where now
Yeah.
her absence in like a spin-off title is very noticed.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little about Birdo, and I'm going to introduce her with a very interesting commercial.
I know what you're gonna play.
Let's enjoy.
はーい、私キャサリンよ。スーパーマリオ USA で敵キャラを演じてるの。おーっと、アメリカでは売れっ子だったのよ。今度は日本のお友達を優しく遊ばせてあげるわ。
アメリカ帰りのファミコンソフト、スーパーマリオ USA。
できちゃった。
Amazing.
So, for those who don't know, a few little bits of context. So, eventually, this version of Mario Brothers 2 or Doki Doki Panic was re-released in Japan under Super Mario Brothers USA. I should also mention that this game, along with Lost Levels, along with Mario Brothers 1 and 3, were eventually packaged together and re-sprited in Mario All-Stars for the Super Nintendo. So that's how a lot of people played this game, and maybe Japanese audience and American audiences rediscovered each other's version. And Birdo is the most common boss enemy that you fight. She's at the end of the first level and many others with a few different forms, and was absent for a while, but then like Daisy, like Waluigi and Birdo and maybe Donkey Kong Jr., a few characters sort of emerged again in the N64 era when Nintendo characters needed doubles partners for Mario Tennis. And weirdly, Birdo continued on and found her way into quite a few titles when Yoshi needed some kind of dinosaur partner, and now just is a character in her own right, appearing in most of the Mario RPGs as little cameos and other games.
Cameos as like a cabaret singer, no less.
Yes. And because we're part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcasting Collective, and because we like to talk about queer themes in these games, and because we very rarely get the chance, let's talk about Birdo. So... If people don't know why we're being like this, it might be very strange because it is just a pink dinosaur. But when I was growing up, in the instruction manual for Super Mario Brothers 2, they used, I would say, poor language to say, Birdo is a boy who wants to be a girl. Since then, that phrasing has sort of dipped away. But Birdo hasn't, which I find quite interesting. And that element still is there, referenced throughout her career, sometimes in unsavory ways, sometimes in pretty harmless ways. I just want to talk. What do you feel about Birdo these days?
I think that while I would never tell a trans person that they should like this character. I would say that if there is a trans person, or really anyone who cares about trans representation, who is on the fence about whether they can support Birdo as a character or not, I would say the right way to think about her is she's a model for how society has updated its language for how to discuss trans people, where we had outdated and offensive ways to explain what we thought they were back in the day. And it's largely been dropped in favor of saying, well, Birdo, she is whatever. She is a glamour puss. She is Yoshi's possible girlfriend. She is a dinosaur who shoots eggs out of her mouth, whatever. We're not talking about her transness so much as like she is whatever she's doing, and the transness is now mostly incidental. Nintendo has never officially said she's a trans character, but they've also not hidden the past of her, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it gets brought up. I've been alluding to, there is this one game called Captain Rainbow, which I think goes in the wrong direction when having this conversation. It literally, it's not a Mario game, but it's basically a, dead end for various forgotten Mario characters. Ironically, Birdo now is very well known. But there's a plotline in that game where you basically have to out Birdo for using the wrong big quotation mark bathrooms. But I would say typically Birdo acts as the kind of Mario Universe Miss Piggy and is a sort of comedic send up of this like ultra diva like you said, glamour puss character. I actually think they could push that further in games like Mario Tennis and Mario Kart. She's just a pink dinosaur. But I think if more of her alternate costumes were like big furs and big dramatic kind of Devil Wears Prada stuff, I think she'd be even more popular.
Oh, I absolutely agree. Although, did you notice that her vacation outfit in the new Mario Kart game is pink, white, and light blue?
Wow. Someone was paying attention.
Someone was, yeah.
I like you said, I would never let's not beat around the bush. Like, it's a joke in the manual. It's a bad trans joke. What I do find interesting though is that she was picked to come back, and it's not like some weird secret Nintendo's hiding. And in the most recent remake of Thousand Year Door with Vivian, we kind of we can sort of get an idea of Nintendo being like vaguely supportive of trans stuff. Like, recent games have allowed you to be any gender and wear any clothes, things like that. There's a few other little characters spotted out throughout the portfolio of Nintendo games. I wouldn't say there's any outright clear support one way or the other, and there could definitely be more. But because Birdo is the kind of scrap that we have, I feel very defensive of her. And I think she was a little bit of a weird internet punching bag in the early 2000s. And now I think people just authentically think she's cool.
Yeah. She represents something you don't see in any other female characters in the series, at least not recurring characters. And it's definitely the kind of diva figure that queer men are drawn to.
In fact, one of my favorite little moments is in a game called Paper Mario Color Splash, where in the Paper Mario games, there's a sort of running gag of her kind of putting on little shows. She just sort of cameos and dances around on a crescent moon or something. But there's a particular one in Color Splash where you sort of enter, I think it's Shy Guys. It's been a while since I played, but a kind of venue where a lot of enemies, or maybe it's toads, I can't remember, are watching Birdo put on a show. But Luigi is also watching from a bush, hiding kind of off camera. And I couldn't read this as anything other than like a queer club putting on a big like show, and Luigi being the down low sort of stealthing in, trying not to be seen by his straight brother attending a big cabaret show.
Right. I mean, that is the most obvious reading for that, in fact.
So aside from Birdo, just in general, the vibe of this game, I mentioned it before. Are there any other little things about Subcon that make it a fun place to be?
We sort of touched on the fact that it looks like something out of Arabian Nights, and that gets more apparent once you get out of the first stage, which is not, aside from the vases, there's not much to it. But by being themed this way, Mario 2 has more of a visual gist to it than Mario 1 does. And even Mario 3, like Mario 3, you're changing environments all the time, and Mario 1 is just sort of like bricks and weird shaped trees. And this one feels more thought through and just themed in a way that we wouldn't see in games until later.
Yeah, even Mario World doesn't feel that dinosaur landy at times.
Not
It
really.
almost feels like we don't get that again until Sunshine, where it all has a sense of place.
There you go. That's very accurate. Sense
Because
of
I
place is-
think, yeah, because obviously you get but you can just make a list. There's like flying carpets, the spooky masks, the Shy Guys themselves. Like there's something. It's just I would love to see a game like we recently had Mario Wonder, which was meant to take place in the Flower Kingdom, which is it sort of did, but it would be so interesting to play a game again where none of the enemies were enemies you knew. Like even in Galaxy, we go to space and we still see Goombas and Koopas and stuff. Yeah, it's very fascinating. So finally, to wrap us up, I'd like to talk about Mario Advance because you mentioned this is the way you've played it recently. I wonder, is that your favorite way to play it now?
I guess it's nice. I mean, I could play it on my Switch, but I like that I still have a working Game Boy Advance, and that came out when I was in college, and that was a time when Mario 2 wasn't something I could instantly get into. So it was a nice break from the real world to sit in my dorm bed and play a version of Mario 2. And it's fun. I like some of the additions they've thrown in. It's also very annoying to play because they overdo the voice acting. The voice acting is like very over the top, especially for your 4 main characters.
Well, I'm going to talk about the voice acting in a second. I was just going to mention that I have a really positive memory of Mario Advance because I think a Game Boy Advance and Mario Advance was like my Christmas present one year. And I got given the Christmas present at like a big family gathering. We were all sort of sitting around and having Christmas lunch and being like proper and being present, and all I wanted to do was play the game. So at some point, one of my parents said that I could go and play it in the car for a bit. So I have this like memory of playing it for the first time in like a icy Christmas Day car. But it was so nice because I like put up the volume really high. I put the like car light on because it didn't have a backlight at that point, or a good one. Can't remember. And I think I didn't know about the voices. And what's interesting is that I had already played this game twice. Like I had All Stars, I had it on the NES. So
right.
I think the differences really stood out to me. And I was just sort of like amazed that I could hear voices on a Game Boy. What is this? But it is interesting that they really toned that down for the future advanced titles.
Right. It's also not nothing that like to debut a new system, Nintendo chose Mario 2. And that was sort of an affirmation to people like me who was always defending it when people were like, oh, it's not a real Mario game. But like, this is what they chose to kick off Game Boy Advance. And there's reasons for that. But also, they wouldn't have done that if they viewed it to be an inferior product or somehow not a genuine Mario game, you know?
Yeah, I eventually got to resent the kind of advanced titles a bit. I feel like the new Super Mario Brothers games get a lot of hate these days, but I was much happier with at least new titles than the games I'd played. Like I didn't bother buying the rest of the advanced titles, and I was always hoping or expecting that they were like getting all of these out of the way because they were eventually going to make a new 2D Mario platform game, but they didn't till the DS. I want to talk a little bit about the voice acting because Mario Advance adds voice acting, and if we weren't clear enough that this is a queer game, listen to these performances. We're going to start with Birdo, but I think there's actually a camper performance in this game. This is what Birdo sounds like in Mario Advance.
Hello there! This is as far as you go! You've come a long way! You've got a lot of nerve! No! I'll remember this! I'm gonna finish you off! Ah, how could you? I'm ready for you this time!
Amazing. That's so amazing.
Truly Drag Race acting challenge worthy performances.
Drag Race, but also Kodachi from Ranma 1/2. That is what it reminds me of, like a bad dub of Ranma 1/2, where that's how they make Kodachi sound.
Truly, I'm gonna finish you off. Is a little bit
Really? Oh, really?
But when you we were talking about you coming on the show, these sound bites live in my brain in a way that almost no other Mario soundbite does. Just this is as far as you go. Wart also sounds great. You know, he sounds like he should.
No! Ribbit. No!
But I mean, actually, all of his voices are great. I like Mouser and stuff, but Fry Guy has the campest voice in the entire game. Just listen to this.
I'm too hot to touch. Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Too hot to touch.
I'm too hot to touch. Ooh, too hot to touch. Like,
he is, I mean, he is literally flaming.
I know. Like, do you know who does these voices?
I don't. That is something I would actually love to do a post about, because they definitely made some creative decisions. It might be Jen Taylor, because Jen Taylor did so many voices back in the day when those characters initially had voices. It might just be her playing her like haughty rich woman voice for Birdo, but I don't know who that gay Fry Guy is.
Well, according to Super Mario Wiki, which I cannot verify, the only credited voice actors for the game are Charles Martinet and Jen Taylor. So they've made the assumption that Charles Martinet is voicing Mario, Luigi, Wart, Claw Grip, Triclide, Fry Guy, and Mouser. I can hear it in Mouser and stuff, but the Fry Guy one might be a low-key microaggression, if so. Well, he's allowed.
He is. He gets a pass.
Jen Taylor, if she's doing Birdo, Peach, Toad, I think that is a great show reel of her range, because
they're like tremendous,
so crazy and different.
Yeah.
The Mario Advance game also adds Robo Birdo for some reason. Do we have any opinions about her?
I mean, why is okay? So if Birdo was playable in Smash Brothers, and I do think she would be one day, definitely Roberto would be her Smash move. It has to be. Like, Nintendo has to bring this back in some form, because it's just too ludicrous to leave by the wayside that there's a giant mechanical version of Birdo with wheels. Amazing.
It is funny, and it's just funny how big of a presence Birdo is in the game. And I like to believe it's just one Birdo. I know that it's kind of odd because she's sort of a species with lots of different types, but I think it's funnier because she does say in one of her voice clips, like,
not this time.
Like, this is at least the same Birdo some of the time.
Like, she's doing costume changes where she's fully changing her entire like color. Yeah, I would like to think that.
So before we finish, this game is often considered the black sheep of the Mario family. Obviously, in our opinion, it's not. But do you think in any way it sort of deserves this reputation?
Yeah, it's weird. It's super weird. If you play Mario 1 or Mario 3 and play this, you'd be like, wait, how do I beat the monsters? This doesn't make sense. I get why people don't like it, but as a gay person, I point out the things that make it different actually make it more beautiful and more special, and it should be celebrated for being different and not punished.
I agree, and I think its legacy is very apparent throughout the series. I think every time it gets referenced, it makes some little gay boys happy, and not just through Shy Guys and Birdo. I think every time we pluck a vegetable, every time we go through a magic door or ride a flying carpet, a little bit of Mario 2's legacy is there.
Did you see that the Phantom's coming back for the Switch 2 re-release of Mario Wonder?
Yeah,
I was so happy about
that. I filmed a live reaction to that direct you can watch on the YouTube channel, and it's like the first thing I mentioned during any of that footage. I go, Phantom. But I agree. I think if Birdo was in Smash Brothers with a full Mario Brothers 2 themed moveset, you know, dropping potions and going through doors and all of that stuff, I would be very happy. I actually think if Toad was the playable character, there'd be a little bit of Mario 2 in there as well. That takes us to the question block. This is the part of the show where I ask very silly, quick fire questions. Are you ready, Drew?
I am ready.
Cool. Question number 1. Who is your main when it comes to Mario Kart or other Mario spin-offs? It's Birdo, of course. If Wart was playable, would that change?
No. I would play as Wart, but I would still default to Birdo because she's just too cute.
Well, which other obscure Super Mario Brothers 2 characters would you like to see added to the regular roster?
So because I'm gay, you're going to expect I'm going to say something like Captain Syrup, and I am pro that. And obviously, Wart, pro that. Stanley the Bugman deserves a chance to come back. The character that no one else will ever say on this podcast, however, is the one I'm going to say now, and that is Undo Dog from Mario Paint / with like the black square frame around his neck,
yes.
like a cervical collar. Yes, I want him in Mario Kart. It would make me very happy, just like barking at everyone as he drives by them.
I believe I've seen someone on YouTube make like a Smash moveset, or at least do some art to like try and get Undo Dog some attention, but not yet. If there was a Mario game set within your dreams, what would it be like?
You put this question on there, and I feel like you're like setting me up for the kind of answer I'm going to give. But like, I was like, well, I don't usually remember my dreams that often. The last time I had a dream, I was playing rugby, but I didn't know how to play. But then I got tackled, and it did not matter that I did not know how to play. And I'm like, I don't see how that would become a Mario game. That seems really inappropriate for the Mario crowd. But I guess if I had to give a real non-sexual answer, it would be like a WarioWare microgame style, where it's like, okay, now I have to like wash a car, and all of a sudden now I'm flying, and like now all of a sudden I'm running from a giant foot that's trying to stomp me. My dreams had to be rapid fire like that, so I guess why.
Yeah, I mean, Mario's dream is nothing if not organized and pretty consistent. I mean, there's a few weird things like eagles' heads for doors and stuff, but it's a pretty safe dream. Although I do like the idea of Mario Rugby, if only to, I don't know, see Wario in a. Okay. Let's. If you were a playable character in this game, what would make playing as you unique in the way that Luigi, Peach, Toad are?
Power to talk to dogs. I don't know how that would work into the game, but I'm very good at like making dogs like me instantly, and then interacting with the dog and like ignoring any of the humans that are around. So if there's like a dog like bonus round, then I would be the one who would get that.
I love that. What do you personally believe is underneath the Shy Guy masks?
The same thing that's under, you know, in Smash Brothers when you see up Rosalina's dress and there's just like the void of the galaxy in there. Same, it's the exact same thing. I don't know if this is about Rosalina, but that.
Yeah, I mean, it can't just be a face. It can't. There's got to be some mystery.
It's something. It's got to be terrible.
And finally, smash, marry, kill, Mouser, Tri-Clyde, or Claw Grip.
Okay, I'm going to. Smash is what I think it means, right? It doesn't mean like smash, like Smash Bros. Okay.
Yeah.
Mouser is getting smashed because I do like fuzzy animals, and that's the only one I feel comfortable with. I would kill Tri-Clyde, unfortunately, because I don't like watching snakes. They freak me out. And Claw Grip. Oh wow, I said it wrong. Claw Grip. I would marry because no other choices. Is there a reason to marry Giant Crab? No, I've got nothing there. I'm sorry. I didn't think that went through.
Well,
Great Wart! Ha ha ha!
Wart was not an option because I knew that you'd want to marry him, and it would all be over in a second.
He has a palace in the clouds. Who wouldn't want to pick that? It's like a great life.
Although, I don't know, he's a picky eater, doesn't eat his vegetables. I'd be a little troublesome taking him out on a date, and all he'd want is chicken tendies and chips, probably.
Also, bad home decor decisions because you made a vegetable machine in the place where you live when you eat vegetables. That's very poor planning.
Yeah, it feels strange to have a whole palace and you just couldn't find another room for your throne and the vegetable making machine.
He's probably straight, honestly. That's probably what the takeaway is there.
Well, this has been a wonderful chat. I honestly feel like this is one of the games where you could talk about this forever, and that is why I think what your work is so important. The thrilling tales of old video games is a really great blog. It's not the typical video game blog that, you know, just ranks things or does kind of tedious, almost stuff you already know. It really goes deep into the stuff which I love about games, about the art, about the messaging, about the themes in ways that's very exciting. You recently did a whole piece about Mario Brothers 2 and Chrono Trigger, which was very enjoyable. And as this episode goes up, I'm sure there'll be a little post on there about it. I will be linking to all of that. Is there anything else you'd like to plug and talk about?
I will make a special link that goes to all the Mario content, or maybe all the Mario 2 content specifically. But in particular, I would tell people to check out my history of Birdo's gender. It was something that went up last summer, and it's the biggest thing I've done on this site. It did remarkably well. I got a lot of pickup all over the internet. But I did, like, from Doki Doki Panic on, how Birdo has been described in Japanese and English in terms of gender and how it's evolved up until now. And it felt like important work in a dumb sort of way, because I wanted to give her as much as a spotlight as I thought she deserved. And I think there's some interesting takeaways to be had about how we talk about transness and gender in general. And it's a conversation I think people need to keep having.
It's a wonderful piece, and I know sometimes we were kind of flippant on this show, but I consider Mario Moment a introduction to some of these topics, and then you can read more about it there. And Birdo, you know, if nothing else, is the most prominent and long-lasting gender non-conforming, possibly even queer character in gaming history. And the fact that she's been part of the Mario franchise since almost the beginning and still continues to show up and get merch and stuff, you know, love or hate her, we have to accept she's here to stay. Genuinely curious who they might cast in the movie if they ever bring her in.
That casting conversation, that's gonna be a really complicated one for how they do that, but I believe it could be done.
Yeah, I would defend, well, depending who they cast, I would defend them to the death. I'd love to see her as part of the films. Anyway, thank you for being wonderful guests. This has been Super Mario Moment. We're a proud member of the Queer Glitterjaw Podcasting Collective. They have loads of other great shows. They have lots of great gaming content and lots of podcasts which go into queer themes in media far better than our show typically does. Also, check out Gayest Episode Ever. They recently did a Simpsons episode, which was really fun because that's one of my shows and probably the favorite show of a lot of our listeners and Glitterjaw listeners. We will be back next week talking by complete happenstance about Super Mario Brothers 3. So that'll be interesting because these games were sort of in development around about the same time, and there's even stuff on Drew's website about the order that certain things were developed in. Certain sprites look better in this game than they do in the next game. Very interesting. Why is that? Check it out. But until next time, thanks, Drew. Thank you for watching and listening as well to my viewers. And so long, gay Bowsers.